Failure, by definition, a lack of success. The definition of success, the accomplishment of an aim or purpose. According to these very guidelines, failing is to be marching toward an end point and for one reason or another, not getting there. Is failure a possibility? Of course it is. There are no definites in life. But failure is also self-induced. It is not an outside occurrence. It's not a coin flip or an event that we helplessly watch unfold before us. It's not up to chance. Failure is a decision. The decision to end that same march that you once started. Just like putting on your shoes is a decision. Just like traveling or running or eating, these are decisions that we make. And when the word is all too frequently brought up in everyday conversation, what's evident is that there is a fundamental misunderstanding of what it means to quote-unquote fail. It's spoken about as though it's something that's projected onto us, as though failure is an illness or catastrophic event, something that emerges and subdues its victims. And speaking of it in such a way misdiagnoses the problem. It's easy to say, so-and-so started a business and it failed. So-and-so didn't make the team, so they failed. But there's more here. One does not fail until they take a step back, look at the situation, and say that it's no longer worth it anymore. You don't fail until the moment you raise the white flag and say, I cannot do this. Because if you're out there, if you're changing, adapting, stretching yourself and your abilities, if you're seeking help, mentors, learning, growing, embracing the struggle, being relentless in your effort, no one can bring that word into the conversation. It cannot exist. If you are moving forward, you are not failing. You cannot be working towards something and failing at the same time. It is impossible. You can have your ups and downs. No one will refute that. You can get knocked on your ass, have moments of fear and doubt, but that is growth, not failure. Growth is taking the uncomfortable and adapting to it. Overcoming the obstacles that inevitably get in your way. Failure, on the other hand, is deciding that growth is no longer worth the sweat. Because I'll tell you what, there's always a way to win, and I truly believe that. Sometimes the cost is extreme, sometimes the price is more than everyone around you is willing to pay, but that's a conversation that you need to have with yourself. Just know that if you want it, somewhere there exists a solution. And knowing that is the beginning of greatness. It is the start of success. And as for that question, what if I fail? Here's some insight. That thought is wasted time and it is wasted energy, because as far as your goals go, you pull the strings. You are the writer, you are the director, and you are the actor. Failure only occurs when you write it into your script, when you choose it for an ending. And it is one ending, one of many. It is one approach of many. Once you've started that march towards what's important to you, do not let failure be the choice that you make. Choose growth. Choose the adventure. Choose the long way home. Victory over defeat, the uphill climb over regret. Choose to move forward when most wouldn't. It's the decision you'll always be thankful you made. there's a specific point where you've been evolving for days, months, years, and you come to what could very well be an end. Where you've journeyed far enough that it would make perfect sense to put your stake in the ground and call this home. No more questions. No more discomfort. In fact, you could hide from the very demons that chewed you up and spit you out. You could. But what would have become of you? Had you taken 3 more steps and reached out? Had you grabbed the unseen and held on? Why, to the detriment of the sleepwalkers and the conformists, not all cages have locks and steel bars. See, regression's not always going backwards. Sometimes it's letting the opportunity outpace your courage, and I shed a tear for those who wave as that ship sails by. I do. How far is far enough to wonder? Can't you taste it? Can't you imagine? What if you just grit your teeth and push a little further? What if you wear the discomfort one more time like a badge of honor, like your ticket to the life you could have, like you see it? Because it's not that you haven't come far. It's that you haven't gone far enough. And with that, friends, I stand and raise my right hand, make an oath to the world to be better than I am. Cause missed dreams bring regrets, and weak means bring wrong ends. So right now, swear out loud, it's not how I'm gonna let the thought in. Immobility is a philosophy. Seeing life through scarcity and how tragic to have it and let it all slip away from me. Is it art or obligation or growth or stagnation? Got a full heart, fresh start. I want a full life, not a vacation. In case there's any hesitation, remember why you started, man. Remember being broken writing just because it was medicine. It's your move. Don't forget, be cold-blooded, no sweat. Cause if life sees cold feet, it'll string you along like quartets. And I have faith in fate, trust it, create poetic justice. Line, please, hope they love it, but hope is easy, easy does it. See, courage, it means a few things. It means taking risks on new things. It means never looking back or being scared to fucking do things. It's not honorable to be vulnerable. Style is pin trips and hireable, and I could stay, play safe. To be honest, it's just not desirable. So from now on, more risks and more turns and more twists and more shots and some miss. But that's life, that's art, that's business. I need this, I can see light, killing weakness outright. There's no goodbyes and there's no laters, just right now. Sun chaser, I can be more, a little braver. No cross fingers, I'm my own savior. Not a betting man, but highly favored. So take stock, day trader. Minutes are all that I'm made of. A minute right here to the end, there's no trade-offs. I'm closer right now than I've ever been. Vowing to excellence, bow and begin again. Just give a little bit more. Woo! Great progress is often the result of subtle change. Of seeing something a little bit differently than you did just a moment before. It's not that the world around you has changed. It's that your thoughts about it have. That you looked hard enough to see the opportunity when most simply walked by. See, people live in this place called reality. This little plot of land surrounded by a fence that separates them from the imaginary, the impossible, and the make-believe. But what if you took a second to stop, to look out at the unknown? What if every day you pushed that fence back, little by little, watching what used to be imaginary become your new reality? Soon you'd look around and you would wonder why a boundary ever existed. No word is as deceitful as impossible. Impossible is temporary. It's a falling raindrop. It's a bar that's constantly moving. And as goes your mind, so goes the world around you. When that intersection of real and imaginary blend together, possibilities multiply. Limitations crumble and fall, and failure is no longer an endpoint. It's an invitation to begin again. Two things define your world: your perception of it and how you act on that perception. Never ask yourself if something can be done. The question is how you're going to do it. How you're going to make yourself believe it can happen. Look, we were never taught to see the opportunity in everything. We were taught to follow orders, to accept what is. But it's the unknowns that point us in the direction of what we want most. They are not conventional. But neither were airplanes, spaceships, or driverless cars. Your goal is not to live. It is to live a life without walls. A life where you are the author and your story can be shared with the world. In your lifetime, there will be answers that no one really knows but you. So remember that, because the world will make every attempt to define truth. And the last thing you want is the shape you take to be a product of their stories passing through. They don't want white, they want blue. They don't want shade, only crystal clear views. But little cloud, that's not you. In fact, you're above all that. And the moment you turn away from who you were meant to be, well, that's the very moment you're indistinguishable from life underneath. Look, I don't mean to scare you, but I'm being sincere. You can't fly to the sun if you're held down by fear, and that pressure, it builds up, it precipitates tears. You can always recover when life blows you off course, but don't leave life undiscovered year after year. See, whether you realize it or not, little cloud, you're on top of the world. So know that you are. I mean, look, you fly around with the sun, moon, and stars. You take a simple blue canvas and convert it to art. If you think that's nothing, little cloud, I don't know where to start. See, life is better every day because you're here. Without you, there'd be no ocean or boats and captains to steer, no sunrise collages to watch and revere. You turn rays of light to pink and teal chandeliers. If you think that's nothing, little cloud, I beg of you, let the logic reappear, because there is no limitation to what you can be. So keep your eyes on that spot where the sky meets the sea. That, little cloud, is where life truly begins. And little by little, you'll start to believe. Simple truth. Just because you don't see a solution doesn't mean one isn't sitting right next to you. See, we misinterpret life when the lights are off and the path is unclear. What do I mean by this? Well, imagine being in a dark room, right? Sitting by yourself in pitch black, having no idea what's around you. Every direction is uncertain. Certainly be a troubling feeling, fear-inducing. But what it doesn't mean is the content within the room is insufficient for what you need. It doesn't mean that you need to go somewhere else to find your answers or that you've failed. It means that You simply have to turn on the light. What you need is right next to you, you just are not seeing it. And that is the point. We've all been in that metaphorical darkness. When we equate that with failure or loss, feeling like we're not quite enough. It's why we get discouraged. It's when we write narratives based on our supposed inadequacy. Oh, I'd be enough if only I had this one thing, if only the situation were slightly different. When the time is right, the weather's good, the door is open, then I'll be what I need to be, where I want to be. But in reality, you're not lost. You're not substantially off track. You just can't see the solution you're sitting on, and in your mind, because you can't see it, it's not there. But repeatedly, life shows us that when you assume the pieces you need are accessible, you find a way. When you know somewhere in the cloud of uncertainty you're sitting in that there's an answer, you find it. All that's required is a momentary flicker of light. That sudden realization, and things change. Look at these two questions. The first one asks, can I find a solution? And the second one asks, how will I find a solution? Two very different questions. Not a lot separates them on the surface, but there's enough discrepancy between the two to change the trajectory of your life. One says, I can't see the solution, so there must not be a solution. The other says, I can't see the solution, so I need to make adjustments until I can see it. And that's all success is. That simple question. I'm not where I want to be now, so how can I illuminate the trail? It's amazing how the step we need to take, the one that will create the momentum we need, it always exists. And life reinforces this over and over again. The moment you understand, you free yourself from yourself. And I can speak from experience. I didn't just one day appear at this realization. When I get this camera, the YouTube channel begins. When my audience reaches this number, I'm going to be braver, more creative with my approach. If I had this equipment, I'd be a faster runner. That's wrong. All of that fails to take into account the answers that are in the palm of my hand. Right? It's not about the 4K camera, it's about the story. Use what you have. It's not about the size of your audience, it's the value you provide them. So pour your heart out. It's not about the equipment, it's the mindset. So stop wasting time and hit the pavement. And this rationalization is not rare, it's everywhere. I've heard it, you've heard it. Someday I'll start a business, I just need that degree, an MBA, 5 years of experience, capital. No, you need an idea in the internet. It's 2018. It's never been easier in the history of the world to share ideas and make things happen. The I will when the time is right approach, that gets you nowhere. You have the answers. You talk to them, walk by them, type them into a screen. They're everywhere. And what makes the difference is whether you see what you have and manufacture your solution, or you see what you don't have and create a sob story. And that's why you can place people in the exact same situation and get incredibly different results. Some build bridges, others build walls. But at the end of the day, they started with the same stuff, the same materials. The difference is one didn't have the foresight to flip on the light switch. That answer, the one you're looking for, it goes off at 5. You can hit snooze or get a head start. The answer surrounds you every day. You can give attention to toxic people and things or embrace the positivity. That answer, it forces you to be better. You can believe you're inadequate or simply improve. Because when you find yourself in even the darkest of places, you are not confined to that reality. You are tasked with changing it. When you're not getting the result you want, take a step back and re-examine how you're looking for your answers. Because with persistence and a single flicker of light, you can reconstruct the world around you.